Come to order.
Good morning. Great to see everybody back. Records question are back in session. Council, open members of our jury officers are present and respected audience witnesses.
Annette Drone. She's out here. Jackson. We had our waiting inside.
Take your full name, spell it for the record.
Annette Dron, A-N-N-E-T-T-E-D-R-O-N.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Drone.
Morning.
I'm going to take you back to 2010. At that time, by whom were you employed? And does Intuit market and sell software out of QuickBooks?
Yes.
And in 2010, how long had you been working for Intuit?
I believe 6 to 7 years. Like that.
And what was your title there?
At that time, I was a sales manager.
So at that time, meaning in 2010? If we could just work on yes, because if we go or...
Oh, sorry, yes, okay.
Did you have a somebody that worked under you by the name of Ryan Baker?
Yes. I don't know for sure if at that moment he did, but at some point he did.
Okay. And as far as you can remember, was part of his job to receive phone calls from customers and answer their questions about the QuickBooks product?
Yes.
And did you do a similar thing as well in 2010?
No.
Had you done that job before?
Yes.
So you had promoted through the ranks?
Yes.
Okay. And going back to when you started at Intuit, were you there when Intuit kind of started as a company?
Not when Intuit started his company, but when they started QuickBooks Online, I was there very early.
And in those days, did you work in a big office or did you work from home? How did they do that?
I worked from home.
And do you recall if Mr. Baker, let's say during the 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10 era, was he also working at home or was he working in a big office?
At some point he worked at home, but I don't know when he transitioned to the office. I don't know.
As best you can remember, in 2010, was he working from home or was he working in the office?
I don't remember.
Okay. In 2010, were you working from home or were you working in the office?
I was working from home.
Was there times when you had a chance to interact with other members of Intuit or Mr. Baker?
Yes.
And how often would that be?
I interacted every day with people.
Okay. What about physically? Did you ever go to the headquarters or
Yes.
were you in the same geographic location as Mr. Baker?
No.
Okay. Where were you and where was Mr. Baker?
Mr. Baker was in Virginia and I was in Utah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, if I have it correctly, Intuit would have people, even if they were fielding calls from customers, there wasn't necessarily a call center where you had a bunch of people sitting in the same room. They could be at home and they could still be receiving calls on behalf of Intuit, correct?
Correct. We had both. We had a call center and we had people working at home, remote employees.
And sometime in 2010, 11, did you become aware of a case where you were contacted by the San Diego Sheriff's Department?
Yes,
And do you recall approximately when that was?
2011.
And you remember being interviewed by Detective Duval?
Yes,
I told you that was about May 12, May 11, 2011. Does that sound about right?
yes.
And how is it that you got asked to, I guess, talk with Detective Duval?
So one of my employees received a call, and Detective DeGaulle was asking questions that she felt uncomfortable answering, and I was supervisor or manager, I don't remember, for her, and she asked me what should I do, and I asked her to conference me in so I could help her with the call.
And you got involved in an interview with Detective Duval, is that correct?
That's correct.
Well, you were interviewed with, that was Miss Taylor, was your colleague, correct?
Correct.
And you actually participated in that phone call with Miss Taylor on that day, right?
Yes,
And then did Detective Duval ask you to kind of look the case over and that you would speak on another occasion?
yes,
And did you look things over?
yes,
Was part of what you looked over the calls that came in on February 8th, 2010 and February 9th, 2010?
yes.
And
I don't remember specifically, but I did look at calls.
okay. And do you know whether or not you called Detective Duval back, or was there a prearranged meeting in the future? Do you recall how that went?
I don't.
Okay, but
No.
sometime after that initial call, you made contact somehow with Detective Duval where you kind of reported back from your findings. Is that correct?
Yes,
And were you able to look at phone calls that were made on February 8th and February 9th?
I don't remember what specific calls I looked at.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 424 and some other exhibits as well. I'm going to show you Exhibit 424 first. Tell me if you recognize what that is.
Yes, it's, we called it a case where we would enter the information for the call or the email, whatever we received.
So that would be somebody like Mr. Baker fielding calls from customers, and when he gets a call in, he then gets on his computer and he's, I guess, going through the call with the customer and doing inputs into the computer.
Correct. We call them cases. So he creates the case for the caller.
Okay.
So we have the information documented for the call.
And I'm going to have you look at these other. I tried to do them chronologically, but if they're not, I'll just have you look at
Okay.
them. Tell me if you recognize those.
I don't remember, it was just too long ago, what specifically I looked at.
But in general, do you recognize those?
Yes.
Are those the same? What can we call those records that we kind of printed out and blown up? Is there a name for them that we can use? We use the word, I think, a marine.
Well, so the tool is called the ugly green tool, but it was a, when QuickBooks Online started, it was very early in the cloud, and so they built, a software engineer built us a tool to track the communication with the customers. So we called it the UGT, and ugly green tool. And for every customer contact, we would create the case, and it would link the history. So if someone called, you could see if they had called before.
So you're looking at Exhibit 811 right now, correct?
Yes.
Is that like the first screen that person that works for Intuit is going to go to when they get a call from a customer?
Objection, leading, lacks foundation.
It's just been so many years. I believe so, but I'm not 100% certain. Okay.
And you can just go ahead and put through those.
Okay.
And tell me if I know you're not going to remember each individual transaction, but what I guess what I'm getting at is you recognize those as business records
Correct.
that are kept for Intuit.
Correct.
Okay.
So this one would be
You say this one is 812.
A12, an email that was sent to the customer. So it documents that we sent this email.
And that's done on the UGT as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then 813?
It's the same thing. The agent sent an email to the customer.
And when you say agent, is there an agent listed on that UGT?
Yes, it was Brian Baker.
Okay. And that's you're looking at 814?
Correct. And this one, he sent some information in an email. Ryan sent it to the customer.
And he's recording it on his in the UGT, correct?
Correct. He would create the email and then just send it. And then if the customer replied, he would be able to see the reply.
And you're looking at 815?
Correct. Again, he's reaching out to the customer and there's no reply.
And you're talking about he, you mean?
Right, Ryan is reaching out to. And this is,
This is, you're talking about 816, correct?
there's no information here. It looks like there was a phone call, but no information.
817?
Your Honor, could we ask the counsel sit down and not distract the jury while he's doing questioning?
I'm sorry?
Could we ask the counsel sit down, not distract the jury while he's doing questioning?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I was retrieving the exhibit from co-counsel.
817?
817, I'm not sure what happened here. It looks like he sent a blank email, but I don't know for sure.
And again, he, you're referring to as Brian Baker?
This one came from Sean Augustine.
Okay, so that's a different agent.
Correct,
Okay, and that's at 817.
correct. But there's nothing in the body of the email.
And then 818?
818, again, this one's Sean Augustine. He sent information to Joseph. He sent an email.
819?
I believe this is just a continuation of the pre-818.
Because an individual transaction with a customer may take up more than one UGT screen, correct?
I don't remember that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's been so long. Yeah. But I imagine, so here's what I think. It would scroll down.
Speculation.
These are screenshots, so it's only going to screenshot what's currently on the screen. You would have to scroll down to get all the information.
That makes sense. Okay, is that
820.
Okay. And then 821?
821 is still a continuation of the information sent.
And are we still talking about John Augustine's communication? Are we?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm. And we get to the end of the email with the information that was sent by Sean Augustine.
And that's 822.
Correct.
Okay. And 823?
It looks like some more information, but I don't see the email address.
Okay. And does it have an agent's name on this one?
Yes, Sean Augustine.
So is that perhaps a continuation of what we just looked at?
Yes, actually, you're right. Yes, it does.
And so that's exhibit 823.
Right.
And on when you were interviewed by Detective Duval, do you recall talking to him about two transactions, one on February 8th and one on February 9th, regarding Joseph McStay's QuickBooks account?
I remember telling him that I looked up information and I didn't see anything unusual. I don't remember specifically the dates. I'm sorry.
Now, when you were interviewed by Detective Duval, you went to some location or you went to your resources and you looked up the material. That's what you wanted to do, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And in preparation for your testimony here, my office sent you some material as well, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
Okay. And was that, do you recall that that was an audio recording of your interview with Detective Duval?
I had audio and a transcript.
Okay. And did that audio that you listened to and that transcript that you were able to review, did that refresh your recollection of what you kind of looked at and talked with Detective Duval
Yes.
about? And you talked about there being a order for QuickBooks Pro.
Correct.
And after the order for QuickBooks Pro, you talked to him about a cancellation of the subscription or whatever the term you use, correct?
I talked to him that someone had asked about transferring the data from QuickBooks Online to QuickBooks Pro. Also, I talked to him about the company had been suspended but reactivated with a credit card. And
So you recall telling him that the first thing that you saw regarding this time period was that somebody called on Joseph's account and requested that QuickBooks Pro be, I guess, ordered.
correct.
And QuickBooks Pro is a desktop version of QuickBooks Online, correct?
Objection E.
What is?
It's very similar, yes.
Okay. QuickBooks Pro, can you describe what QuickBooks Pro is?
QuickBooks Pro is, like everyone recognizes CD. So you could either get a download link or get a CD and you install it on your computer. Where QuickBooks Online is in the cloud, so you would just have a login and password just as if you log into your bank online. It's similar to that.
And QuickBooks Online?
Is the online version. So that one's in the cloud where you would have login information and you could log in anywhere from any computer. QuickBooks Pro would be on just your computer.
So, and you relayed to Detective Duval that the way you saw it, Joseph McStay account was a QuickBooks Online account. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what else did you tell Detective Duval about the QuickBooks Online account regarding the first transaction on February 8th?
I told him that someone had requested the export the data and that wasn't unusual. It was one of our most frequent questions was to export data from QuickBooks Online to QuickBooks Pro.
So, when people own QuickBooks Online, is the data stored in the, I think you use the term cloud?
Yes. So it's stored on servers in various locations. We call it the cloud now.
So if you, let's say for example, you had QuickBooks Online and you gave me your password, I could actually get into your account and look at your QuickBooks, is that correct?
Sure.
So, what's the difference between that and QuickBooks Pro, the one that's, you said with a disk and it's on a desktop computer? What's the difference?
So the QuickBooks Pro's on your desktop computer. You would just log in there. QuickBooks Online, you can log in anywhere from any computer.
And what's the reason why somebody would, you said you got calls frequently about this. What was the reason people would want to transfer from QuickBooks Online to QuickBooks Pro?
Some people wanted to transfer because they decided they didn't want to pay the subscription fee. They would rather pay one fee and have QuickBooks Pro because there was no monthly fee for that. They may be going out of business and they want to cancel their subscription and save their data, so they would need to transfer to QuickBooks Pro to save the data. Sometimes they just weren't doing a backup for themselves.
Is a privacy an issue sometimes about that?
Objection leading.
Are there other reasons why somebody would want to not be on QuickBooks or not have QuickBooks Online and have QuickBooks Pro?
In the beginning, people were very nervous about having their data somewhere else, and they were worried maybe someone would hack into it, or the data would get deleted or corrupted, and so they would decide they wanted to go back to QuickBooks Pro.
Was it uncommon for somebody that had QuickBooks Online to request QuickBooks Pro?
No,
That happened all the time.
yes,
Was it uncommon for a person who did that, switched from QuickBooks Online to QuickBooks Pro, to then cancel their QuickBooks Online?
Objection, speculation.
yes.
And why would that be? Why would that be not uncommon?
Well, for the same reasons where someone may be canceling the subscription, they don't want to pay for the subscription, they want to back up their data. QuickBooks Online didn't have all the features that QuickBooks Pro had, so sometimes they found the online version wouldn't work for them, and they wanted to go back and use something they were more comfortable with. There were many, many reasons.
Okay. And would customers also not only cancel their QuickBooks Online subscription, but would they also ask that that information be deleted?
Objection,
Yes.
speculation.
Yes.
And why would that be?
I don't remember a whole lot, but it was a pretty common thing, and most of the time it was because they just didn't feel comfortable with their data online at that time.
And you relayed this information, the fact that this transaction occurred, these two transactions, the ordering of QuickBooks Pro and then the cancellation of QuickBooks Online. You relayed that information to Detective DeGaulle, correct?
Yes, well, Janet Taylor's the one that talked about the order. I was on the phone, and then we talked about the transfer of the data, that request to transfer data.
And Detective DeGaulle wanted, basically what he wanted from you is whether there was anything untoward about this transaction on the 8th and 9th. Was that
Objection calls for speculation.
And did you report back to Detective DeGaulle your review of the materials?
Yes.
And what did you tell Detective DeGaulle about this transaction?
I couldn't find anything that was out of the ordinary from the cases that I could see. It was all normal behavior.
And is QuickBooks Online, is it attached to someone's bank account?
No.
But there is a function where you can actually have a bank balance when you're using QuickBooks, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's just mainly, well, what's that for? If it's not hooked to a bank, why have a bank balance when you're working on QuickBooks?
So QuickBooks is just a record for your business. It will give you how much you have in the bank, how much you owe people, how much people owe you. It's accounting.
And you told Detective DeGaulle that as well, right? That it's not,
Right.
QuickBooks is,
Yeah, that people would not have access to money from QuickBooks.
Right, so getting back to these screens, I have to apologize, I had to blow these up because they were so small. they're on these bigger sheets here. But I want the jury to see these, so I'm going to go ahead and put them on the overhead. This is exhibit 810. This is one of the exhibits I showed you up there, right? And what would this be?
Objection, asked and answered.
So this just gives information on the customer's cases. You would need to click on the case ID to get any information.
Okay,
This doesn't have any information.
okay, we'll go to 811.
So there you can see,
There's a pointer up there, drawn. I don't know if you see it there. Yeah, if you can find the button there, maybe if you can just point out for the jury, but actually behind you.
is that right?
Yes.
So. Again, it's been so long, I don't know exactly. I do see this information about Joseph McStay.
Let me ask you
Under
this.
object as to foundation with respect to this exhibit.
Did you tell Detective Dugal that these screens have accounts that may be listed?
No, I don't remember telling him about the screens.
Okay. So you don't, are you saying that you don't know what this screen is?
It's some sort of customer information. I just don't remember how you get to the information that this, so it looks to, this is information about the customer contacting support or sales. But I haven't used the tool in 12 years and can't remember if it links to other information.
Under object as to foundation with respect to this witness in this exhibit.
I do, okay. Let me just show you something here. Who puts in this, would you know who actually enters data onto this screen?
So when the customer would call in, the employee that answered the phone would create a case. So they would enter in the information and create a case. This screen is a report, so you would put in Joseph McStay, run the report, and then information on him would come up.
Does it appear that this is what happened in this case?
Objection calls for speculation.
Well, you see, you saw you described earlier the four, I guess, accounts, or four, not four accounts, the four entries here. Is that what would come up if you put in Joseph McStay's name?
Can you scroll over?
Sure.
Okay, so there now I know. Okay. So if you see the cases in history, you could click on these links and it will give you information on what happened on the case. What did the customer ask? What did we give? What information did we give them?
Okay.
And so these are all the pieces that we had that were linked to the name Joseph McStay.
So this, what is this column here where my pen is?
Last case closed.
And that dates underneath that?
That was the time that the customer customer service representative closed the case. They said they were finished with it.
Okay. Exhibit 812. This is the one that you said had, I guess, Ryan Baker's name on it, on the upper right corner,
That's correct.
and he recognized what this is.
Objection, asked and answered. You need to-
This is it. So Brian Baker sent Joseph an email with information. And this is just a record of the email that was sent.
And when you say sent it to Joseph, it's who called in is where the, I guess, the person that was talking with Mr. Baker, and it's not necessarily the person who's on the account. Does that happen pretty regularly at Intuit?
Objection, A, compound.
Well, on this particular screen, we're talking about Joseph's QuickBooks account, correct?
Correct.
Somebody called in on this account, is that correct?
That's correct.
And the person fielding the call doesn't know who it is other than what they're told, correct?
Correct.
And would you, do you know whether or not people call in and represent themselves not to be themselves, but whoever the account owner is to get access? Is that something that happens?
Objection, speculation.
Can we tell what's happening here on this screen?
This is an email that Brian Baker sent to Joseph, to that for Inspired Products email. And basically is asking, he sent the customer some information asking for a reply. He didn't receive the reply, so he is following up to see if the customer still needed help.
Okay. If you look on the left side of the screen there, it shows Ryan Baker's name here, is that correct?
Correct.
And it's underneath that the email that would have been sent to, this information?
Correct.
And then,
That's the email there.
okay. And it says custom at earthinspiredproducts.com?
Correct.
Just one more thing about exhibit 12. Does it show when this occurred?
Object, asked and answered, key number 10. Okay, against the time when this occurred.
So, this is, I'm not sure, I need to see what's. Can you scroll the other way?
This way?
And right there. Okay, so. I don't remember how the times work. There's several times on there. I don't remember specifically.
Okay. Is there a line here where my hand is?
Yes, so you can see that it says 2/9, 2010 at 8:06 to 2000 to 2/13, 2010 at 9:54 a.m. So there's a time frame, and
Would that be the time that Mr. Baker had the case from start to finish?
Actually calls for speculation. Lies foundation.
it would make sense, but unfortunately, I don't remember for
Okay.
sure.
Should you eat 13. This again, Mr. Baker's name, is that correct?
That's correct. And again, he is asking for a reply from Joseph because he hasn't heard from him and he hasn't got the information that he requested.
And it has a time here and a date. What are those referencing?
I'm sorry, I don't remember.
This is 8/14.
Okay.
Do you know what this is representing?
Yes, this is an email that Ryan Baker sent to Joseph. So you can assume that the customer called in and said, I want to delete my QuickBooks Online company or my QuickBooks Online data. And there was a process, so the email was sent to Joseph with the information needed to delete the data.
So when somebody wants to delete the data, and that's their inquiry when they call, QuickBooks doesn't just press a button right there and then and everything's deleted. It doesn't work that way, does it?
No.
How does it work when somebody requests that data be deleted?
Well, you would have to get this information, you would need to get the master administration, the name of the company, the master administrator user ID, and then you would request it through a different process, and it would have to be deleted by the engineers.
Okay. So with Ryan Baker's role here, he's following up on an email that he sent earlier.
Correct.
Does Ryan Baker or someone in his position send out instructions to the master administrator on how to delete?
That's correct.
Okay.
How to get it deleted, because the customer would not have access to delete it either.
How to respond to Intuit so that Intuit can then delete it.
Correct.
Look at 817.
This is the one that it looks like Sean accidentally sent a blank email. There's no information in the email.
Okay. And this would be, okay. Oh, okay. 818.
So this is information to export the data from QuickBooks Online to the QuickBooks Pro.
And we see a date here of 2/8. So that would predate conversation with Mr. Baker, correct?
I think so.
Okay. Well, anyway,
The
this,
dates,
okay.
specific dates.
But now it's Sean Augustine as the agent, correct?
That's correct.
And the inquiry that he's talking about is I want to transfer data from QuickBooks Online to QuickBooks Pro. Need help.
Correct. So the original question was this, and then, so this is the email that sends the instructions for exporting the data.
So QuickBooks, when someone calls and says they want to transport or export the data from QuickBooks Online to QuickBooks Pro, that even is going to be sent out to the owner of the account on how to do it, instructions in other words.
No, I'm going to object as cumulative to the February 13th testimony of Mr. West and February 14th testimony of Mr. Hamilton.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Is it 819?
It's just a continuation. I'm assuming it's a screenshot and just continuation of the instructions.
820?
More
More to say?
continuation of the email, yes.
821?
Same thing, continuation of the instructions to export.
And we know this is Sean Augustine as well, because we see the inquiry up here, right? Want to transfer data from QuickBooks Online to QuickBooks Pro 2010, need help.
And his name's at 13.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
H12,
So there's the end of, so there's the, again, continuation of the email.
and H13.
Same thing, same email.
And this is 815. This will be a different agent, correct? This is Ryan Baker,
Right.
is that right?
Yes.
And at the bottom it says that contacted user advised that he's going to cancel, but when he canceled, he needs this to be deleted, and capital letters needs.
Correct.
So, and so this is, this was, if we look at the dates here, it's 2/9, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And it says 2/9/8:05 a.m. to 2/9/8:13 a.m. Is that time frame of, let's see, whatever, 4 minutes or whatever that time, is that the amount of time that Mr. Baker was talking to the individual that called in?
I don't know.
Okay. So, when you talked to Detective Duval, were you able to look at this material before you talked to him, or did you look at other material?
Well, when you called, I looked up some of them. I looked up information, but I don't remember specifically whether I saw the specific case.
Now, you mentioned something about, in your interview, about knowledge-based information. Do I have that term right?
That's correct. We had a knowledge base which would provide answers to frequently asked questions. So instead of having to compose a whole email, like that big long email with instructions, you could just copy and paste it into the body of the email and send it.
So that one email that we're looking at that both Ryan Baker and Sean Augustine, they sent two different emails, but they went on for multiple screens.
Correct.
That would be knowledge base.
Knowledge base.
Okay, so in other words, Ryan Baker or Sean Augustine, they're not sitting there typing pages of screens. They're just drawing from a pre-packaged response. Right?
If there was one, yes, they would just get the prepackaged response.
And you conveyed that to Detective Duval that these were just normal responses.
Yes, I did say they were normal responses.
And were you referring to this knowledge-based information when you told him that?
I believe I was just saying that because it was just common. I mean, that's just what people called us and asked us about.
Cost.
Good morning, Ms. Strong. So when you worked for QuickBooks at that time, you were not the supervisor for Ryan Baker, were you?
I don't remember.
Okay. But at some point you supervised him, right?
Correct.
And when you did supervise him, you found him to be a good employee from what you recall?
Yes.
Objection relevant.
Conscientious employee?
Yes.
And he got good reviews from you?
Yes, there were things he needed to work on, but overall, he was a good employee.
Now, at the time that you talked to Detective Duval, that was quite some time after these notes had been made, is that right?
Yes,
The notes that council just went through with you on the screens?
yes.
And you didn't actually have any direct participation in any of the activity that occurred with respect to deleting the accounts or ordering when the new program was ordered, is that right?
I did not have any direct information.
Okay, so you were just basically relating things that you looked up, but you didn't take either of those telephone calls, right?
Correct.
And the only reason that you got involved was because Detective Duval called asking questions, and the employee that received his call wasn't comfortable answering those questions, right?
Correct.
And at the time that you talked to Detective Duval, you had actually gone in and looked up information on the family, right?
Only because he told me to.
Okay, but you did that, right, when you talked to him?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when somebody would call into QuickBooks and give information, is it fair to say that only the master administrator could request that the company be deleted?
That's correct.
And so if somebody called in and gave the telephone number of Joseph McStay and said that they were Joseph McStay and was able to provide specific company information, the person who was receiving that call would essentially take that at face value, right?
Correct.
And when you did some research on, you indicated to Detective Duval that you looked at some documents and you did some research on the calls, right?
Yes.
Did you actually go into the company and look within the activity on the company?
No.
So when you told Detective Duval that you didn't necessarily notice anything unusual, that was based only on the phone calls, is that correct? The screens that you reviewed with counsel?
Anything unusual? Yes. It wasn't anything unusual for someone to call and ask to export data or cancel company or delete a company.
Okay, but so there was a call on the 8th that came in, right? And that call on the 8th was to basically request a CD to be sent out, right?
They requested a download and a CD.
Okay. And so there's a call then on the 9th to delete company data, right?
Correct.
And you have no way of knowing whether or not that company had actually been transferred onto a desktop version when that call came in on the 9th, right? And so if that data had not yet been transferred, would it be a little bit more unusual to have somebody requesting to delete an entire company without transferring the data?
People didn't always transfer their data and then delete, but it would be more unusual.
Well, if somebody wasn't looking to go out of business and was looking to keep their company, it would be a little bit unusual to delete jobs that you were in the middle of, right?
Correct. You had another one. Some people had two, and then they asked for one to be deleted.
When you did your research into this company, I'm going to show you what's been marked as 808 and 809, and ask you to recognize either of these exhibits in terms of what those are.
So I recognize them. I don't really remember much about them, but yes, I do remember this.
Okay, so these are the back-end user notes, right?
Correct.
And
Well, this is information.
so we have back-end user information on both of these?
Correct.
Okay.
Information about the company, information about the billing, how much they paid.
Okay.
How many?
When you look at these exhibits, and I know you didn't have a chance to look at these ahead of time, so it also has information in terms of subscription status and things like that, right?
Correct.
And these would be back-end user information, billing information, and things like that, that only QuickBooks employees would have access to, right? These back-end user notes?
Correct.
Okay. And so, did you review these at all? And do you know if you reviewed these at all before you spoke with Detective Duval?
I must have.
Okay.
I don't specifically remember, but this is something that I would go to first.
Okay. So then you were aware, when you spoke with Detective Duval, that there were actually two separate companies that belonged to Joseph McStay.
Objection, that assumes facts not evidence as phrased.
I don't remember that.
So you don't remember there being two separate companies?
I don't remember that, no.
Okay, and so if one was ordering QuickBooks Pro for one version, and then for one company, and then asking to delete it for a second company, those would have been recorded on the particular companies that they were associated with, right?
Oh, you mean in the Lucan tool?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, if it was specified, if the customer specified that.
Okay. Well, and again, we're assuming that the caller is the customer with that, right?
The caller.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if the caller in one call specified a particular email address and gave the information associated with that email address, it would have been recorded on that particular account, correct?
Correct.
And then if the caller called the next day and gave a different email address and the information and asked that to be deleted, that would have been recorded on that specific account, right?
Correct.
And you indicated that people will sometimes delete accounts, and you thought it to be a little bit unusual because there was no bank information associated with the accounts, right?
No, there was. A credit card, you mean?
No. What I'm saying is, let me ask my question, maybe it wasn't clear. So when QuickBooks accounts are used, they don't actually correlate to a specific bank account, right?
Well, you track all what you do in your bank account in your QuickBooks.
Right.
And at some point there was a banking feature added where you could download your banking data into QuickBooks, but I don't know if it was available at that time.
Okay. And so if somebody, well, I think the way that you put it specifically was, you had told Detective Duval that it wasn't attached to a bank, so you thought it was a little bit unusual because it wasn't attached to a specific bank. Do you remember telling him that?
I remember telling him that it wasn't attached to a bank, so I didn't know why if somebody would be trying to access the books, because it wasn't like you could get money out of it, is what I meant.
Okay, but if somebody had been doing some illegal activity on it, then perhaps that would be a different reason why someone would want to delete the account, right?
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained call for speculation.
Well, if somebody didn't have access to the QuickBooks account and had created checks and then deleted them, would that be a reason that someone may want to delete the QuickBooks account?
Objection calls for speculation, argumentative.
You indicated that you never went into the actual activity logs for the accounts, right?
I don't remember going into activity logs.
Okay, so you don't recall if you looked at the actual custom side of the account to determine whether or not somebody had written checks and then deleted them from the account, right?
I didn't go into that.
If you had looked at that, would that have been something that you would have told Detective Duval about as being potentially unusual?
Your Honor, this is all speculation.
Sustained.
Now, you indicated that you didn't take the call, either of the calls in this case, right?
That's right.
And so if Ryan Baker testified that when he spoke to somebody on the 9th that wanted the company deleted, and he sensed some urgency in her voice, That might be something a little bit unusual when they say that, right?
Objection, Your Honor, that's argumentative.
The objection sustained is calling for speculation and conclusion.
Did anybody talk to you about what Ryan Baker testified to in this case?
A little, yes.
Okay, who talked to you about what Ryan Baker testified to?
Josh?
Okay, so he told you that Ryan Baker testified to certain things in this case?
That's correct.
And did he tell you that when Ryan Baker testified, that he testified that when he took
Your
the
Honor,
call
I would
on the
object
night-
as to hearsay and argument and speculation and relevance.
The objection sustained is relevant to grounds and evidence field 352.
What else did Mr. Moline tell you prior to you testifying in this case?
Objection relevant.
Sustained on the same grounds.
Did Mr. Moline talk to you about certain things that Ryan Baker testified to that he would want you to say the opposite of?
Objection.
No.
Do you want that stricken, counsel?
No.
Now, you testified that there were some, you could actually put in some information and it would populate, right? If it was just a general information request?
So you could put in a name
Uh-huh.
and then information of all the cases associated with that name would come up.
So, for example, when we look at these screens that you were shown, and Ryan Baker made a notation in there that indicated that somebody needs the company to be deleted, and the word needs was in all capitals. Would that be something that he specifically had to type in at that time?
It is not something someone would have told him to do.
Okay. And isn't it also true that you believe that it would be unusual, and you told Detective Duval that it would be unusual for someone to give the master administrator's phone number and information with respect to account if that person wasn't the master administrator?
It's a difficult one because if someone says they are someone and they have information, you don't really have a way to know if they're that person. So I could call in and say, I'm Michelle Wasden, and
Right, but do you remember mentioning to Detective Duval and telling him, like, why would somebody give that phone number and do that? Do you remember telling him that?
no.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at that portion of the transcript from when you interviewed with Detective Duval? Page 8. Lines 12 through 18.
That's 12 through 18. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Does that refresh your
Why did
recollection?
somebody give that?
Hold
Sorry.
on one second. Does that refresh your recollection of your conversation with Detective Duval?
I don't remember specifically why I said that sentence.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
But you did tell him that.
Yes, I believe the transcript is correct. I don't remember what I was specifically referring to.
what's been marked as 424. These are a smaller version of the exhibits that council spoke to you about. Okay, do you recognize what those are?
Just has phone information on customers' cases, so if you click there, you would get to the case.
Right, but this little pack of exhibits here, these are
Oh,
the
yes.
things that you just testified about, right?
That's correct.
And so what is the conversation that was had with Ryan Baker? What was the email address where those emails were sent to?
So this email was sent to custom@earthinspiredproducts.com.
Okay, and that would also be information that one would need if they were the master administrator, right? They would need the email address?
They would need the email address and the user ID.
Okay. And then if I can show you what was marked as 818, the email address that Sean Augustine used. What's the email address that Sean Augustine sent that information to?
Joseph McStay@hotmail.com.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Sean, the two calls on the 8th and 9th of February. The first call being the 8th, the Sean Augustine call, the request to transfer data from QuickBooks Online to QuickBooks Pro. To your knowledge, was the CD mailed to the address on file for Joseph McStay?
She actually calls for speculation, lacks foundation.
Overall, she can answer if there are any records that we need to discuss. One way or the other.
There was a CD sent to an address. I don't have any information on how the salesperson got that address. But I did notice in the transcript that the sales agent, Janet Taylor, did give the detective the information on where the CD was mailed.
And it was also noted that the CD was sent back after 2 attempts. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So the actual download of data from QuickBooks Online to QuickBooks Pro was never done, and that information was relayed to Detective Dugal, correct?
Objection, speculation.
Was that information relayed to Detective Dugal that the download or whatever that's called never?
The download, it
Objection,
was.
speculation.
Oh,
Well, she can answer what was reported to Detective DeGraw.
And I assume it's not offered for the truth of the matter?
Correct, it's only offered to show that's what was reported to Detective DeGraw, whether it was correct or not.
Did you report anything to Detective Dugal
I-
regarding the download?
I did not, but the agent that I was conferenced in on, Janet Taylor, did.
Okay. And did you yourself check to see if that had been done?
No, I did not check.
And what is the CD for that's mailed out?
The CD that was, this order had a download, which somebody did click on the link and download QuickBooks Pro. The CD is a reinstall CD, so say for example, you need to reinstall the software, you no longer have the link, you could use the CD. It's just a backup program.
And so that CD was the one that was sent back?
That's correct.
Okay. And as far as the Ryan Baker called the request to cancel and then delete the QuickBooks Online. Those instructions were sent from Ryan Baker to Joseph McStay's account, correct?
Yes.
And we saw those emails on those screens. Do you know whether or not someone actually deleted it at QuickBooks? Meaning somebody responded and then it got deleted by QuickBooks?
So from the emails, you could tell that no one responded to Ryan Baker. I have no information if that happened later.
Okay. So as far as you know, with the information that you have, nothing was ever, not only not deleted, but no one even responded to the instructions Mr. Baker sent, correct?
As far as I know, yes.
And counsel showed you a transcript, and she told you to look at page 8, 12 through 18, I believe the line. And you didn't know what context it was or why you said that, is that correct?
I just don't remember why I said that sentence.
Correct. I'm going to show you the whole, just take a look at page 7 and 8, okay? I'm going to show you the whole thing, and then let's see if you know what the context is of that statement.
I could guess, but I don't remember saying that specific sentence. And in general, why would someone give that phone number if it wasn't the correct phone number?
So was it your understanding that the person who's calling in is giving their number, correct?
I would assume that, but I have no knowledge of who called or, if it was who called or if it was their number.
Detective Duval actually wanted the phone number of the person who called on the 8th and the 9th, didn't he?
Objection, speculation.
Who called Detective Duval asking me about the phone number of the person that called.
Did he ask me what the phone number was, or did he already have it? I can't remember. Sorry, I don't remember. I know we talked about the phone number and whose phone number it was, but yeah.
But do you recall, just generally, did Detective Duval want to know the number of the person who called in? Do you remember that?
Objection, speculation. No.
Any objections to this one being excused?
No.
So thank you, minutes for your attendance, and you are excused. And we're going to take our morning recess, 15 minutes. If you want to be admonition previously introduced, not formal, discussing the things like this, or discussing, and we'll see you back.